Hi, everybody. I am Brad Cruz. I am the Associate Vice President of Alumni Relations at Case Western Reserve University. Welcome to Page Turners. Page Turners is an initiative we started about 2 years ago. We do this as a precursor to different Think Forum lectures that are going to happen on campus. Just a couple of housekeeping notes from me. Please mute yourself. There will come a time in the program where we're going to ask for audience participation, and you can if you'd like, and if you don't want to, that's fine too. And then something else I think is always interesting is to know where everybody's tuning in from. So I put in the chat where I am right now. If you feel comfortable, put in the chat where you are. We'd love to hear from you. We also have Crystal Crosby and Angel Flowers who work with me in the Alumni Association. We're going to sort of manage the back of the house. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Karen Kaler for this edition of Page Turners. Karen, take it away.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Page Turners. We're glad you're here. Today, we are discussing The Privileged Poor, How Elite Colleges Are Failing Disadvantaged Students by Anthony Abraham Jack. Now, Dr. Jack will be on campus just in 2 days for the Martin Luther King Convocation, our annual event, and he will be speaking on the dignity of work on campus and beyond. This is on Friday, January 23rd, 2026. I'm emphasizing the 2026 because it is the Case Western Reserve University bicentennial year. This will be our first Think Forum of the bicentennial. When we have done Page Turners in the past, I've had you, invited you into the official residence library. Today, we're in the living room so we can enjoy a little of the history of the university. I have portraits here. This is a donor, Rebecca Kinsman. Here's a professor. Here's Leonard Case and his brother, William Case. As you know, Leonard Case was the founder of Case Institute of Technology. We also have some students here. This is Fred Gray. Fred Gray came to our law school and then went immediately back home to be the civil rights attorney for Martin Luther King Jr., Rosa Parks. He was the attorney during the Tuskegee syphilis trials. And I just read that he turned 95 last month. He's still practicing law. These three students here, you may or may not know that Western Reserve had 6 of the first 7 women to get medical degrees in the nation. And these are the first 3. And then we have another wall over here. Over here, here's Amasa Stone. Here's Flora Stone Mather. Some students, Stephanie Tubbs Jones. Now, this is not a student. This is Frances Payne Bolton. This is John Sykes Fayette. Reverend Fayette was in 1836, was the first known African American to graduate from Western Reserve University, and we have a new residence hall named for Reverend Fayette. Up here is Viola Buell. She was the way up there. She's the first woman. This is 40 years after Fayette graduated in 1836. She graduated in 1876. So now for our discussion, I'm going to have Rob Solomon and Kiana Verdugo come join me, and we're going to sit down in front of John Sykes Fayette and have a discussion. So Rob and Kiana, I want you to just go ahead and introduce yourselves. Rob, you could start and tell us about yourself.
Sure. Thank you, Karen. I'm Robert Solomon. I serve as the Vice President for the Office for Campus Enrichment and Engagement. And our office is charged with leading the university in our efforts to create mission alignment with our mission, core values, and vision surrounding inclusion and in creating this vibrant and engaging community on our college campus. So it's really exciting work. And Case Western is actually one of the pioneers of positive organizational development and change in our Weatherhead School of Management. So what an exciting place to be and to have an incredible resource to do that.
Oh, that's wonderful. Okay, now Kiana, tell us about yourself.
So I'm Kiana Verdugo. I am currently in my last year of college here, and I'm doing biomedical engineering as my major, creative writing, and polymer science engineering as my minor. I'm originally from El Paso, Texas, so a long way from home, but I'm excited to continue grad school here and just, I had an amazing 4 years. So.
Oh, that's wonderful. So you're very impressive major. So you're hoping to go on for graduate school.
Yes, I'm hoping to continue here actually. So I'm still in the application process, meeting with people, recommendation letters, but I'm very excited to continue.
Well, and I know you've been very involved on campus.
Yes.
And one of the things I know you're involved with, and were formerly the president of
Yes.
First Crew.
Yes.
That organization really it speaks to some of the issues in the book. So could you
Yes.
tell us about First Crew?
Yes, of course. So First Crew is for first generation students. It's specifically designed to help with career development, internship help, resume, cover letter, and then also helping with imposter syndrome, since it's very prevalent in students who come here, especially for first year students. So our goal is to create like a social, but also like career development environment for them to feel comfortable. They can also participate in first gen breakfast that we have with the Alumni Association. We also have like homecoming events. We have a graduation for people. And it's a very nice environment for where they can feel welcome, ask questions. There is no such thing as a dumb question, especially when it's your first time ever in college. So you want to be able to hear other people's experience. And it was amazing. I was able to be a part of that for 3 years, and I'm glad to be here to talk about it. So.
Oh, that's great. And Rob, can you tell us any of your experience with first generation college students?
Oh, yes, certainly. And I have to note that I was a first generation college student myself. And so first generation undergrad, first generation law school. And so it is an entirely new environment. And I've certainly had an opportunity to engage with First Crew on our campus and to really share a number of insights that we often take for granted when someone is coming into this kind of environment. And I think that's what Dr. Jack gets into in his book.
Yeah. When I want to just add here that I was also a first generation college student, as was my husband, who is now the president of the university, was also first gen. And we have Angel and Crystal on our from the Alumni Association, who we just were discussing.
Yes.
They were also first gen college students. So we all related to this book, I think.
Yes.
But the privileged poor, the title, if you haven't read it, you may be thinking like, what does that mean? So, Rob, could you explain that?
Sure, absolutely. So the privileged poor are those low-income students who receive scholarships to attend these typically private, exclusive, elite high schools. And in some cases, there are some national programs where they're also exclusive public schools, but mostly it's the private schools. And so what's unique about this is that they not only get this extensive, high quality, comprehensive education to prepare them to thrive at these elite private schools, but they also become acquainted with sort of the culture and the customs and the social experiences that they might encounter when they go to these schools. So when they go, they're walking in knowing the rules, if you will. So they know the lay of the land. It's not new to them, and they're familiar with it.
Okay. So, Kiana, can you add anything to that?
Yeah, so I feel like, especially as I went to a private school, it did prepare me well for coming to Case Western. You do know, like, for example, the classes, there's APs that are involved. And so you do get used to, like, the rigor that would come with, like, the culture of the school. But then there is that, like, disadvantage of where you're not like every other student. Everyone is top 1% of their class, but is everyone top 1%? Like economically, no. Is like not everyone's from, for example, Texas. Some people are from like other big cities and things like that. So that is another thing.
Yeah. So, and Dr. Jack, contrast the experience of the privileged poor with the doubly disadvantaged.
Exactly.
Those students from, disadvantaged backgrounds, perhaps disadvantaged educational backgrounds, lower income, and now they've got the culture shock.
Exactly.
Right? So let's see. And then he talks about the hidden curriculum. That was another term I was not familiar with. I'm going to just share for the viewers that have not read the book. I'm going to share a couple of things that he says about this. He says about how some students discover to their great consternation that they are also responsible, also besides being doing well academically, they're responsible for deciphering a hidden curriculum that tests not just their intellectual chops, but their ability to navigate the social world of the elite academic institution. And then later in the book, he talks about, he quotes First Lady Michelle Obama, who was a first-gen student who went from her public high school in Chicago to Princeton University. And she said that when she got to know her college classmates, she realized that they were all struggling with something, that instead of hiding their struggles and trying to deal with them alone, they reached out. They went to office hours. The hidden curriculum at a place like Harvard, he calls it renowned university in the book, but he's not coy about admitting it at Harvard, that people knew to ask for help. Some students knew to ask for help. Others did not. Others, would see that as a sign of weakness.
Exactly.
So, yeah, could you speak a little about that?
Yeah, I feel like especially with imposter syndrome, you're already dealing, as a first-gen student with just being in a new place, you're getting used to all these different classes and you have to be as active as possible to make your resume look good. So I think with imposter syndrome, there is that fear of asking for help. And some people, it's more natural because they were able to have that experience in high school of going up to teachers and having internships in high school. But it's not like that for every student. For example, I was terrified of going and asking for help for professors because I didn't want to seem weak because, I'm at this really big school. I want to show them that I belong. So I think that is what really deters students, is that they don't want to ask for help when they're in these situations, whether it be for mental health, it can be academic, it could be just needing a place to talk or club advice, that they're swayed from that because they don't want to seem like they don't deserve to be here when they really do. So,
Right. Yeah. Rob, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think that Kiana's done a really great job of really summarizing just those benefits and the challenges that students face. And I think that we have to do everything that we can to make sure that students get the best out of their experience in that way.
Yeah. So one thing that Dr. Jack really suggests is that professors talk about office hours. They define them on the first day, define them for themselves and for their students. And what did you think about office hours when you first came here?
I didn't know what they were. I thought that office hours meant that that's when you couldn't bother them. 3 to 4 p.m. Tuesdays. I was like, okay, I'll let you be. I also thought it was, and it was also defined differently with each professor. For math professors, it was a time to ask for help on homework. But then when I started going up in biomedical classes, it was more so if you needed advice for an exam. And then other times it was for other classes, turn in your makeup homework here. Make sure you turn in any excuses from doctors. So it varied a lot. And I remember asking around what is an office hour, because it doesn't, office hour sounded more administrative rather than it did let me get some help.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that professors started to define it more, but at first it was very confusing. And I was honestly scared to go to office hours because the name is daunting. So it's I'm going to be one-on-one with the professor. He might ask me things I'm not sure of. And so it's a little bit scary to just even think about sometimes. So.
Yeah.
I think that one of the things that Kiana noted, I think it's important, because if the professor defines what it is, then it can really help the students understand that, well, yes, this is a good time where I can communicate or I can go and I can ask my questions. And if it's different from each professor, then they'll know what that is. An easy way to do it is to put it in your syllabus and explain exactly what you mean by office hours, and to reiterate it, because I know that many times I've encouraged students to come see me and talk to me, and they won't. And so you have to remind them that this is really okay. It's painless. It won't be a problem. We do want you to come, and we want you to talk to us.
Yeah, absolutely. I know my husband has talked about students that when he would have office hours that would just stop in to say hello, and he'd come home all happy, like they just came to say hi, So, and which I would think when I was a student, I would never do that. That would have been so intimidating to me, but he loves it when they, when students would do that. Well, I want to talk now about the role a sense of belonging plays in student success. Now, Rob, the stated mission of your office is enriching our campus life through building community, active engagement, mindful learning, and transformative civil dialogue. So being that building community is listed first, I assume you think this sense of belonging is pretty important?
Yes, it really is. And I will note that the building a sense of belonging, certainly in terms of what we have to do, goes beyond just the students, that we want to build a community sense of belonging. But for purposes of students, and I want to note this, that the research certainly supports that a sense of belonging is vital to college students. It boosts academic achievement, improves mental health, and increases retention rates. So certainly feeling valued and connected reduces anxiety, encourages the use of campus support resources, and I know Kiana talked a little bit about that, and it fosters really higher motivation, and ultimately it drives students' persistence and success. So that's really, really valuable. Now, one of the things that we think about is how can we help that?
Yeah.
I mean, the first thing we think about is programming. We may do a number of programs in order to do it, but we also have to work on different strategies to create this sense of belonging. And so it could be, making sure that facilities are accessible, celebrating a variety of cultures, promoting honest and supportive dialogue, positive messaging, or just providing, food, fun, and laughter, just opportunities to come together. And we have many campus partners that we work with to try to bring about this kind of change.
Yeah, yeah. And Kiana, what about you? I know your work as a resident assistant and RA on campus, and I know that you also help guide younger students this way. So what can you say about this?
Yeah, I would say with the rigor of case, you do want like a break from that. You want to talk to people about a class, or just even about your own culture, about where you came from, or anything that interests you. So that is partly why I became a resident assistant, is because I wanted students to make sure they had someone to talk to, and that they had someone to lean on, whether it be advice on a class, or just, Kiana, I don't feel well, or I'm just I'm down, I'm homesick. So that's partly why I became an RA, is because not only have I been able to meet so many people and still close to them to this day, but also thankful that they're still here, and that they either took my advice, or were Kiana, I went a different route, and they created their own environment and their own safe space, because it is very vital here. I had a culture shock coming from Texas, and desert to now negative weather, and it is very important. The other clubs that I'm a part of, La Alianza, I used to be part of OSTEM and things like that, Women's Coalition, our entire goal is making events so that people can come, whether it just be for food, just be to get out of the room. That is important, because especially with the weather, and then also the amount of inundated with classwork, that they still have a place where they can go, you know what, I can still go to club events and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think students getting out of their comfort zone is a very big part of that, because even mentioned in the book of the sense of belonging, where you just feel understood by other people. And so, for example, that's why I joined Sigma Lambda Gamma. It's the only multicultural sorority on campus, and it was just people understood me, and my Mexican culture, my food and stuff, and it was. And there are so many bits and pieces throughout CASE that offer these moments of just happiness that I think people should really grasp onto. Office of Multicultural Affairs, that They have like so many like whether it be like a cookout or just like a program on getting educated on voting or stuff like that, that is just, it makes you feel like home. So
Yeah. So, I noticed that you mentioned like a cookout or, you just come and eat, or it's a well-known thing that if you offer food, college students are more likely to show up, right?
Exactly.
Right. But that also brings me to one of the really heartbreaking parts of this book was at renowned university, Dr. Jack writes about how some of the students spring break are flying on private planes to these elaborate vacations, whereas other students are in the residence hall when there was no food available.
Exactly.
There was nothing for them to eat over break. Can you talk about that? What happens here?
So I have stayed for fall break, Thanksgiving break, part of winter break for like RA and things like that. And it's definitely like a challenge because the meal plan ends at 2:30 p.m. on that Friday. So my friends and I will like use all our meal swipes left that we have to be able to scrounge for food for that weekend. And then there is case cash depending on what type of meal plan you have, because there's unlimited, there's halal, there's like the standard. So it really does depend on how much like swipes you have, but you can't use them at the dining hall because they are closed during these breaks. And so then if you have trouble like getting to grocery stores, because they are far from here, like Walmart's 15-20. So then that's another issue, is like destination. Like if you don't have a car, how can you like buy the food? So that's a very big challenge, is like being able to eat on campus, because yes, we are given like case cash, but it's only for a few places on Euclid. And then yes, we do have the meal plan, but it doesn't apply for breaks. So then there is the campus like food pantry that there is, like it's on South Side, and I do recommend that a lot to residents or like people around me who are going to stay for break, because there is an abundance of food that you can just take home and start cooking, and I'm glad that that is a bigger resource, and it should be like broadcasted more, and I've seen a lot more people go, because it is like very vital for the breaks that we have.
Well, I know you've told me that you encourage your students to, like the case cash, don't just be eating midnight pizza. Save it up for for break time. But Rob, can you talk any more about food insecurity?
Sure. And a couple of things that come to mind. One is, in terms of food security, the book really highlights the disparity during the spring break and when the cafeterias are not open. But food insecurity is not limited to the breaks. And that there are students who run out of food during the course of the year, the academic year. And some of this tells my age, but at a time when I was in school, there was just a meal plan on campus, and you ate the meal plan, right? And there weren't a lot of choices, and it depends on your institution too. But now most institutions have all these meal options, and what happens is that if you're a low-income family, you're trying to find the most economical option you can find, right?
Right. Exactly.
And so it's sometimes the cheapest option might leave you short before your time is done. And so you have to take that into consideration. And then also, if you're a new student, you're not thinking about how to parse these things out. You're hungry, you swipe. And then the next thing you know is that, I've got, 3 weeks left and I don't have any money left, right? And so that happens from time to time. But as Kiana pointed out, that the food pantry that has really become very robust, and it's sponsored by Student Affairs, that is a tremendous resource for our students. And I think that the point is that we should be thinking about the food gaps for students on campus, and not assume that everyone is able to have access to food throughout the course of the year. And I think that's important. I'll add another point that's not with food insecurity in terms of Jack's book, and that is just having housing available. One of the things that I've learned in working in higher education is that some low-income students, they don't have a place to go.
Yeah.
So in some institutions, they can't even stay on campus, right?
Right.
And so you have to think about how are these disparities impacting students who may have different lived experiences economically, and to think critically about how we can make sure that we bridge those gaps with those students as well.
Right. Well, and Dr. Jack's second book, I'm going to hold this up, Class Dismissed. This book really dealt with that even more when the closures for COVID. When a student was saying that he interviewed said that she, got the call that she was supposed to, we're all leaving, everybody's going home, and she was unhoused. I mean, she didn't have a home to go to. And so these gaps and challenges and dispersity, they were really highlighted during the COVID pandemic. He wrote this as his second book. He was actually working on a book about working while on campus. And his, as I mentioned, his talk is the dignity of work. So I think he's going to be talking to us a little more about working, in that talk. But if you read this book, I've got to say, if you're doing quantitative research, the appendix is really interesting. I don't often recommend an appendix of a book, but I certainly would in this one. And he talks about how his interest, why he switched to this book. He was asked to be on the Harvard committee to examine how race affects and undermines undergraduate life. So he was on that committee. But he said that he was keenly interested in how universities, especially those that serve lower income and first generation college students and see themselves as launch pads for upward mobility, proclaim to value diversifying their student body, yet struggle to serve the students they so actively recruit. And that's really the topic of both of these books. And the chapter in here on work, I think, was particularly strong. But can you talk about working while as a student?
Yeah. So I've worked a various amount of jobs on campus. The main one I've stuck with was being an RA. I used to be a Gelfand Fellow, which is basically going to elementary schools, and we would teach students like math, science, help them prepare for their own science fair. It was very fun. And then answer like their questions on like, can I build a volcano? And it's like, well, yes, you can. And like, just like making sure that they know like the opportunities that are available to them. And like they get to explore their interests. And then I also worked at Veal. I was an intramural supervisor, which was just making sure people were like putting the balls away, putting like things away, and just keeping score of things. So that was also very fun. And and then being an RA was probably the most prevalent. Like not only did it provide housing, but it also provided me a space to like program for students and just like, hey, come over for this, like. We'll do a gingerbread contest, and then more people would come out. And so it allowed me to engage with students, see what they're interested in, because every year is different. So, and I think like as I got older and like as new classes came in, I got to see that where it was like, my first group was more interested in being more collaborative, but the second were more introverted. So it was like, how can I like adapt and make sure that they still feel welcomed? And it'd be like, oh, we'll do more like arts and crafts, or, oh, I can invite them to the Museum of Art. And so it's like, it really did provide me like so many ways of just not only like extending these jobs to like, hey, you should apply, but also just meeting students who like come from different places, interested in different things, and like ways that not only I adapted, but ways we can all adapt to just like people's interests and like what's changing. So
yeah. No, I remember reading several years ago that students who work while students actually do better in school because they learn to manage their time, which it seems counterintuitive, but there are, of course, students working multiple jobs just to make ends meet, which makes it very difficult. And do you have any experience with internships?
Yes. So I actually did 2. I think, actually I did 4, but they were all on campus. So what I did was do research here. I was part of the Engage program, which is when we're given like a stipend and we work with one of the labs here and we're able to like kind of like present at the end of the year our findings and things like that. So I worked with the Sklepi, which is a wound dressing company, and that's what I was able to do for a summer. And then I also did an internship where I was talking about diabetes and ulcers with patients and then also doctors, and kind of like understanding the patient perspective versus the doctor's perspective on like addressing type 1 diabetes, because it has a very big stigma around it, but also like when it comes to care and when it comes to patient wounds, like how do we properly address that and make sure that they're comfortable. And then this past year I worked with the Root Lab, which was polymers, and we made self-healing skin. So I was able to present that at the intersections. So that was very fun. And then like right now with my senior design project, we're working on a glove to assist with hand weakness. So I've been able to do a lot on campus. Great. So yeah. Okay. And I was only able to by like reaching out to professors and also like putting myself out there, which was contrary to what freshman year me would believe, is like, you can ask for help, like you can ask for guidance. And like when it came to application season, it was really like, that was very pivotal for asking for these questions. So
yeah, oh, that's great. That's great. I mean, you're like a recipe for success here. But you know, though you mentioned that the first internship was over the summer and you had a stipend.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So one thing Dr. Jack mentions in the book is some of these internships, they're prestigious internships, for example, at the White House, are totally unpaid. So you have to be able to live in DC and not make any money, and not make any money over the summer to continue your education. So these jobs are only for students that don't need money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. Have you seen that play out?
Yeah, I've seen like, especially depending on like labs or internships where it's more volunteer based, and it's like, you can come over here and sometimes we'll maybe provide housing. That has actually swayed me away from internships, because it's like, we might provide housing, we won't have a stipend, but you'll have this crazy work experience. And it's like, well, how will I live there? Like, how will I make money? How will I buy food? Like, just provide for myself. And I think, luckily CASE offers a lot of like paid internship opportunities, especially here on campus, that I encourage a lot of students to do. There's the SOURCE program, which is over the summer. They also provide a stipend, and you're able to do like an internship of any research of your choice, and you can continue there. Some professors offer it, Cleveland Clinic, like we have a lot of opportunities around campus. But when it comes to more like REU, which is research institutions, it's like, if you're going to Texas, Arizona, anywhere else, it's a little harder unless you're from that state. So it's very difficult.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have any comment, Rob?
Yeah, I think the inverse of that is that, and Ken has really highlighted it, that it limits the opportunities, right? So if you financially cannot afford to do an internship without being paid, then I've got to check that off my list.
Right.
I can't do
Right.
that.
Yeah.
I can't do that. I can't do that. And so it creates, again, a larger pool of opportunities for students who come from middle class and upper class and wealthy families to have those experiences. And it may put them that much further ahead in their professional pursuits as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'd say it absolutely does.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, now is the time that we can ask our audience if they would like to ask questions. Let's see, what we're going to do is you raise your hand, and one of our team members on the Zoom will tell us. Well, I think Brad will tell you if you want to talk. If you're camera shy, you can put a question in the chat. I want a couple of things I want you to think about if you don't have a question or a comment on your own, which is great. Was there anything in the book or our discussion that really resonated with you? Or was there anything in the book that really surprised you? And Brad's going to wave his hand if anybody's got their hand up, but if not, I'm going to ask Kiana and Rob if there was anything in the book that either resonated or surprised.
Yeah.
So go to Kiana and Rob first. And then we do have a question that just came in. What responsibility do students have to one another in creating a more inclusive campus culture?
I like that question. I think
I like that question too.
it's like probably what formulates your college experience. That's how you make friends. That's how you're introduced to opportunities. And I think being able to be in positions where RA, club president, you're part of anything, that you extend these like privileges to like a student, because you never know why someone is asking, like, I need a job. Like, you never know why they need it. Maybe it's to make like ends meet. Maybe it's just, I need to pay for my meal plan. So it's like very important for students to be able to help other students. And I think like over at Case, there is like a sort of competitive streak with academics. And so some people may feel daunted on like asking other students for help because you never know if they'll say yes or no. And so I think like it is our responsibility to be able to extend these like internship opportunities, or just like even help, even like asking for advice, or just I'll sit down and talk to you. Like, I think that's super important and vital, because that's what I got my freshman year, and it made me like who I am today, and being able to just use what they've told me to tell other people. And so I think like it is very big on like student responsibility to just, support everyone else. Like, yeah.
Yeah, that makes me think of a book by Heather McGee, and it's entitled The Sum of Us. And really the point of The Sum of Us is that it's not a zero-sum game. Anything that if I'm doing something to benefit Kiana or Karen, that doesn't take anything from me. And I think that part of our education of students is to get them to understand that no one is an island, that we stand together, and that if we will support and help one another, then we all will benefit, and that we will all flourish and thrive. And so I think that if students have that understanding, then it shouldn't be that difficult to think about, well, I can't take advantage of this opportunity. I wonder if Kiana's interested, or I have a friend. And it becomes a more inclusive environment, making sure that everyone in our sphere is uplifted and supported and seen and valued. And I think it's a responsibility that we as an institution must model to our students, and then hopefully our students will learn those lessons. And I'm confident that they will learn it sooner or later. We hope that they learn it sooner while we try to model it and explain it, but it will benefit them in the long run, professionally and beyond.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you.
So that's the only question I've seen. So please feel free to continue the dialogue here.
Okay, so it's actually what you're talking about as an RA helping other students, and you were an RA, and I was an RA for almost all my schooling. And thinking back, I've often thought what I learned from helping the girls on my floor and from being a resident assistant was the most formative part of my college experience. I mean, I think I gained from helping others. I gained the most of anything I did in college. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
That reminds me of an experience I had. I remember when I was in college, and I was driving home for the break, and my car broke down before, about 20 miles from campus. And I remember I had some friends who came to meet me, helped me get settled. We got my car towed, rode back with them, and then helped me get on a bus to take my trip, right? So, and that all happened with friends. It wasn't the school or the institution, but just, your friend circle and the people around you who were there to really help and support me. And it just, I won't even say how many years ago that was, but that resonated with me.
Yeah. So, anything in the book that surprised you?
I think something that was very surprising was that still the 60% of like the student class and like these Ivy Leagues are still part of the 1% in economic status. And it's still like we've made progress in like allowing more for like underprivileged students to attend these universities, but there is still a huge gap between that.
Yeah.
And that was very surprising because I don't know why, like I thought it would be smaller, like considering time. But
if you think of less than 1%, and then it's 60%, yes, of course you'd think it would be small.
Yeah.
You know, I met a very successful woman who came to undergraduate here and then went to Harvard for graduate school. And she said she had a great experience here, and then when she went to Harvard, she just had imposter syndrome because it seemed to her everybody was exceptionally wealthy, and it's you know, a shock. Yeah, and I was surprised by this book too.
Yeah.
Any
I was thinking about, so in Lonnie Guinier's book, The Tyranny of the Meritocracy, one of the things that she talked about was that the single most significant factor of people who get into those institutions and populates them is money. Economics. That it's really, so and the message can be, oh, it's standardized tests or it's this or that, but it's really money that has paved the way for those things. And in Anthony Jack's writings, he certainly highlights how economic disparities can make the difference in how people thrive in different places.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think even like Anthony Jack also mentioned like the doubly disadvantaged, and that it made me think about like how people in Ivy Leagues are like so wealthy, and it's like it starts even before high school. It's like the doubly disadvantaged was like understaffed high schools, like underfunded high schools, and it's like and then so many students with little teachers, and then it goes way beyond like even that. It's like the funding for education can be like where you, and then also where you came from. It's like, you know, and so when you think about how wealthy some of these people are, and then how some of these high schools are struggling, it's like it's so crazy to think about that it goes beyond college. It's like even younger, like it's already starting. So
yeah. Though, you know, one thing that I loved hearing about when you were talking about being I forgot the name of when you went into the schools,
Fellow.
the Galvin Fellows. So that you're going into schools and helping students see a different, see you as a college student. Can you talk a little more about that?
Yeah, so it was so fun because they were like 6 years old, and we were helping them build like a science fair project. So we'd start with like, you know, a question, hypothesis, and then how we would go about it. And so we would meet with like students one-on-one. There was a few of us, so we were able to meet with like 1 to 4, and hearing like their questions, like, oh, like you're so big, like what do you, like how old are you, where do you go, like is Case Western like super cool? And then I think of one question that did stuck out to me was like, do you think I can go to college? And it's like, you know, and it really just starts there, and it's like, yes, you can, like you can come to these higher like institutions, and it's like they're thinking about it now, like even like so young, where it's like they have like these great ideas and they want to showcase them. And so I think like it was a very like amazing experience because you get to like encourage like younger generations that you can like succeed, and like, you know, I'm here teaching you, like this could be you kind of thing. And they thought it was very fun, and they would even ask like, oh, how can I like apply? And like, it was very nice. So
that's great. Well, you know, I think of the youth sports program. I think we're the last institution that still has one of those, where we get these students just on campus, you know, so they know they're welcome here. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Okay, Brad, any more questions?
How about, what responsibility do elite institutions and their graduates have once students leave campus?
Once they leave campus.
Yeah. Well, I think that part of it happens with the structure of the institution creating a pathway to move into their careers, right? And so I think that we work to make sure that we create those opportunities through career services and career development, and to help them do those things. And then there's certain programs within the institution that support this work. You know, for instance, I'll talk about a program that we sponsor in the Office of Campus Enrichment and Engagement, and that's the Preparing for Future Faculty and Ascending Scholars. And so we do a weekend retreat for those who are interested in going into academia. Now it's very limited, but those who are interested in higher education, those who want to teach and to continue their careers in the academic environment. And we try to create sort of a retreat boot camp style experience to cover all the things that they need to know, even though, you know, they're sort of brushing across it throughout their time, but we want them to understand about, you know, how to write grants and what does promotion and tenure look like, and here's some of the things that you should think about, and networking and et cetera. It's sort of like more hidden curriculum, right? Things that it's substantively you're learning what you need to know, but we're committed to helping you do that. And now we're adding the Ascending Scholars Program to help undergraduate students think about the pathways to graduate and professional school. How can you be successful? What are some of the things that you need to do? So while some of that's embedded within the programming of the institution, we want to create another resource to help support students to learn more, to really drill down, and to help them to figure out the things that they need to do. And then CASE is probably, among other institutions, that is a resource to alumni as well, so that alumni can come back and make connections. Because there's some people who work professionally, then they might come back and get an additional degree, or they might figure out what are some opportunities that's available for them beyond their time at the institution. And I think that's important to note. And of course, we have the Alumni Association, right?
I'm thinking we should flip that to Brad.
Right. You know, what you can do to really help those students as well.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And then, you know, we did want to say, if anybody in the audience, if you have anything that you hope Anthony Jack will cover in his address on Friday, did either of you have anything?
I think I honestly wanted him to cover like kind of like that disparity that was like, I feel like now it's bigger more than ever, especially, for example, affirmative action has been like removed from universities. And I feel like something where we talk about how like Latino and like Black students are very like, whether it be like disengaged from going to college because of cost and stuff like that, but like that this is just very important to pursue. And like whether it be like coming from like a certain background, I think like just touching on that would like really inspire, because of being on Case campus where it's like, you know, you do have like the opportunity to help others, but you are like, look at where you are. Like for example, like I'm like so happy that I'm here, and like I was first in my family to come to go out of state for college, so it was very like, it's a big deal. And I think like emphasizing that and just how like how far students have come is very important.
Yeah, I think for me, the context of Dr. Jack's books are with these elite institutions, but I think there is a common through line of economic disparity, and it is not limited to these elite institutions. I mean, I spent 25 years at The Ohio State University, a large public institution, and it exists there. We certainly had many programs that were designed to help bridge the gaps, but we had those who were unhoused, who were on campus, their families were. You had issues of them trying to send money back home. You had food insecurity issues of those students there. You had students who really didn't understand, you know, some of the basics. There's a hidden curriculum even at those institutions. So I would want to make sure that we're all clear that you can see it more clearly at these elite institutions because the contrast of the wealth is so great, but it exists at other institutions as well across this country, and we need to be thinking about it as we examine higher education more broadly.
I think that's a really excellent point. Excellent point. And then I will remind you, if you're in the Cleveland area, if you're not in Cleveland, hope you're someplace warm, and we're having a real cold snap. But if you are in the Cleveland area, you're welcome to come to the talk at the MLK Convocation. It's Friday at 2:45 p.m. in the Tinkerville University Center. I want to remind you that all Think forums, through generous support of sponsors and donors, are free and open to the public. However, you do need to register. So go online and register so you can come. Brad, do you want to close us out?
I'll be happy to close you out. And I just want to say we've been very fortunate to have Kiana's mom as one of our viewers today. So she's joined us. So very happy to have her. So thank you, Karen. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Kiana, for this discussion. The chat is talking about how they felt it was a very great. It was a good discussion today, and really some wonderful points that all of you made. So thank you very much. Again, like Karen said, stay warm. If you can join us for the MLK Convocation, we'd love to see you here on campus. And just remember too, this is Case Western Reserve University's bicentennial year. So more information will be coming about bicentennial. Thank you so much. Have a great day.